Hello, hello. Alright, the sun is bright. We are driving. Well, John's driving. I'm attempting to not be blinded. Blinded by the light. So we were up in Idaho yesterday, and on the way back home today, we just stopped in Ogden to look at a couple potential properties that we are potentially going to make an offer on. So this person is selling a portfolio. They've got four properties now that they're looking to sell. They had 5. They're hoping to sell them all at the same time, but one of them was sold. The other ones obviously have not. And I've been kind of going back and forth with the agent. We hadn't seen him yet, obviously, but just going back and forth on pricing on some things and what the seller's looking for. And there's a lot of mixed messages from the agent, we'll say. Trying to figure out like what the seller's really looking for, what their motivation is. And then today we went to look at 2 of the properties. 2 of them we're not super interested in. We really like to buy value-add properties, and the 2 of them, there's really not much. They can get fixed up, but they're not super below market rent. So there's a little bit of value-add opportunity, but not a ton. One of the properties we walked was a duplex. We were hoping there was going to be more value-add opportunity because we just bought the duplex a couple months ago. And that was a huge value-add because it's perfectly set up to be basically a 4-plex. So that one, we could take it from a duplex to a 4-plex. So we were hoping that this duplex would have been like that. And it did have basements, but there were short ceilings. John's 6'1", 6 feet, and like he was hitting they weren't ones that are gonna. It wasn't a good setup to convert that into separate units in the basement. We'll probably still make an offer, but I'm sure they won't accept it because they're out of their mind on what they think it's going to go for. But one of the things that I'm going to do when we do make the offer is I'm going to pull a couple comps of things that have sold recently to show her, like, hey, what you're asking is like twice as much as what it's worth. And then also a couple properties that are currently for sale that are very similar, just to send those and be like, hey, like, this is stuff that's sold in the last, hopefully we can find something that sold within the last 30 days. And then also sending, here's properties like right now in the market that we could buy. Because one of the things that, when we're sending in an offer, especially when it's going to be significantly below what the asking price is we like to give some sort of like support and backup as to why. So it's not just like, yeah, here's a super lowball offer. So if we can send in the offer and say, hey, this is the support of our offer. Like, here's a couple properties that just sold in the last 30 days and what they sold for. And here's stuff that we could buy right now. Like, these are on the market properties that are bigger than yours and in better location that are for less money. So that'll be something that when I do put the offer together that we'll send with it, and just, as our backup, as our support of, what you're asking for these is, you're ridiculous if you think you're going to get that. The duplex is probably worth close to half what they're asking. Maybe a little more than half, but, and then the other one, it's a 5-plex, but the city only recognizes it as a 4-plex. So that was another thing I told her. I said, it's only a legal 4-plex. Like, it's not going to, you're not going to get lending with the 5-plex. And then she just said recently that the owner is actually going to try and get it as a legal 5-plex. So they're going to go and see if they can get the zoning and things like that to get it as a legal 5-plex. So like, if you can get it as a legal 5-plex, obviously I'll pay more for it. I said, but if not, then that's either something that we would have to try and do, or the city comes in and says you can't rent it as a 5-plex. But it seems like it's been set up as a 5-plex for, it's a monster home, so it's this old, beautiful used to be beautiful Victorian type home, and I can't imagine it hasn't been a fiveplex for a super long time, just the way that it's laid out. But it definitely like, I don't want to say quite slumlord owners, but pretty close. The exterior's been super neglected. It definitely needs some work. The porches need some work. The whole exterior really needs a facelift. The inside's not bad, but
not bad, not great.
Yeah, it's kind of that, like, it's at that point where you either, it's not quite nice enough to probably, like, do you keep them as a low-end rental and not redo everything, or do you just rip everything out and redo it, and just make them nice? And it's in an area of town that, Ogden is definitely a place, and in this area where it's like block by block, the houses are really nice or pretty crappy. And this block, they're all really nice. They're these beautiful old homes. The paint jobs on them. Craig, I see you're watching. The paint jobs. I mean, how many different colors do you think the one next door had?
Oh, probably 6 or 7 different colors.
Like, it was a beautiful paint job, but I'm just looking at that and I'm just going, wow, that is some meticulous painting, and like it was, but it's in a nice stretch of street, and this is definitely probably the crappiest looking one. Like, when you're standing, all the ones around it are definitely nicer. So this one definitely has some potential, not a ton, but we really like the area. We like the old home. The rents could go up some, but most of them are pretty close to market rent, especially for like their condition. You get a little bit more if they were updated. But something that we also do when we go to look at properties, and this is actually the first time where the agent was like, yeah, just go look at them. And they told, normally, I don't know, it seems like most of the time when you're going to see multifamily, they're having like the agent with them, but they just were like, yeah, we told the tenants, just go anytime. I was like, okay. But we always like to talk to the tenants, ask them, how long they've lived there, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and just to get a feel for the area, for the property, how it's been getting maintained. A couple of the tenants had mentioned that there's been some maintenance things that haven't really been getting taken care of. They're like, yeah, the property management doesn't really seem to care about that. And I said, it's hard to know if it's the property management or the owners, because ultimately the property management company, most of the time, so when you have a property management company, there's normally an amount, $300 to $500, where you say, okay, if it's a maintenance thing under $500, I don't want to hear about it. You just take care of it. Anything above $500, I want to be involved. I want to approve it. So it's always hard to say when tenants complain about maintenance, is it the property management company or is it the owner? If they're just not responding and not getting back to you, that could be a property management thing. Or if they're coming back and just completely not even responding or ghosting you, it's kind of hard. Like, do they know that the owner's not going to approve that upgrade or that maintenance? So when there's maintenance issues, it's not always clear cut on, is it the property management company or is it the owner's not approving them to do stuff? Because some owners will, that threshold could be, they need to approve every maintenance thing. So, but yeah, one of the units, I guess there's a bathroom on the second floor above them with a leak, which sounds like it could just be that the person doesn't know how to use a shower curtain. But there's a few things with the maintenance that two of the tenants complained about. But we just really like to get the opinion and just talk to the tenants, what they like about it, what they don't. That just really gives us some good insight onto the property. And and then a lot of times they ask us, like, what would you do with the property and things like that. And, we always tell the tenants, typically if people are really below rent, then we just kind of go to the tenants and say, hey, what would you be able to pay in rent? What upgrades would you want with that? Hi, John. And just kind of work with them when we do buy a place. And, we tell them, we're not landlords where we're looking to get the absolute max out of a place. We'd rather be slightly below market and have tenants stay in there a long time and not have to deal with turnover. And that's one thing right now. The units that are turning over, we're at super high rent prices, and we're like, that's probably why they're turning over, because now rents have gone down and they're paying top market prices and they don't want to pay those now. Some of them said they needed different size properties, but we like to be slightly below market and know that we're going to have tenants that are going to stay in there for several years. So, yeah, anything to add on the properties we looked at?
No, just a lot of these listings, they say, oh, you can buy this and raise rent. And like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can raise rent, but that could result in more profit for you, or it could result in people moving out, units sitting empty for months at a time. So yeah, you can raise rent, you can do whatever you want, but that's not necessarily gonna be a good thing, you know.
Yeah, and they may say you can raise rent, but you may not.
Might not be wise to.
Yeah, just because the listing says that you can raise rent, do not believe it. You may not necessarily always be able to raise rents. Because just what we're seeing now with units and the feedback that we're getting, I would say those units, you could get a little bit more out of them fixed up, but you're not going to be able to fix them up and rent them for $300-$400 more. Maybe $100 to $150 on a couple of them, but just most of them are pretty close to market rent. So, but yeah. So that was our Sunday night, going to look at some properties, but we probably will underwrite them a little more tomorrow and make an offer. She did mention that they would be open to seller finance, so we'll probably make an offer on each one for seller finance and then just non-seller finance. So
we could probably do a quick word about properties that initially appear to be overpriced, because these are definitely, our initial reaction is like, man, that's overpriced. And I think it can be a helpful thing to uncover the seller's true motivation. They're not going to be getting, if it is overpriced, they're not going to be getting many offers. And if they're just looking for basically a sucker to come in and overpay, and somebody that maybe doesn't know what they're doing, you can kind of uncover that motivation if they don't respond to your offer at all. Like if they don't counter, or they get huffy and insulted. But if they counter, then you can see a little bit of motivation and say, okay, maybe they do actually want to sell this, or maybe they do actually need to sell it.
yes.
So
Yeah, so
it's my 2 cents.
yeah. And we'll let you know tomorrow what we end up doing for an offer. So have a good night, everyone.